Let me just say something that might genuinely surprise you, especially you. Imagine this. A woman can absolutely love you, deeply even, and still, almost unknowingly, take you completely for granted. Yes, really. It happens far more often than you'd ever suspect, and the most astonishing part. We usually don't even realize we're doing it, not until you're truly gone, or until you finally, completely stop chasing us. That's the moment everything dramatically shifts. That's when the comfortable silence suddenly becomes deafening, an overwhelming emptiness. And that's precisely when we start profoundly missing the man we once swore, with full conviction, we didn't actually need. This isn't about blaming or bashing women, quite the opposite. This is about revealing the unfiltered, raw truth directly from a woman's perspective, so you can stop endlessly wondering what went wrong and finally understand the intricate psychology of how this crucial dynamic genuinely unfolds. Because, believe it or not, there are undeniable signs, subtle psychological triggers, when a woman starts to deeply miss the very man she previously overlooked. So, if you're a man who has ever felt taken for granted, or if you're intentionally pulling back right now, curious to understand the intense emotions she might be experiencing in your absence, then listen closely because this message is crafted specifically for you. I'm going to guide you through this profound journey step by step, not from some sterile textbook, but from the raw reality of how we women actually think and feel when the powerful realization dawns on us that we might have truly lost a man who was, in fact, irreplaceable. You want to truly know when we start missing you? It's often not during an argument, or even when we're giving you the cold shoulder and acting completely indifferent. No, it's when your name simply stops appearing on our phone, when you cease checking in, when the consistent texts and those little updates we used to pretend were annoying suddenly disappear. That's when a deeply unsettling silence begins to creep in, not just around us, but profoundly within us. Most women are accustomed to being pursued, used to a man proving himself, consistently showing up, even when our moods are hot and cold. When a man continues this pattern, we often feel a sense of power. We mistakenly believe we have him completely wrapped around our finger. In this mindset, it becomes incredibly easy to unintentionally take him for granted, hardly noticing the subtle erosion of value we place on his efforts. But the moment he stops, that's precisely when the jarring realization hits us. Initially, it registers as simple confusion. Why hasn't he messaged me today? This quickly evolves into more frequent phone checking, refreshing social feeds, and subtly watching your stories, even if we never like or comment. We profoundly feel that shift in your energy, and our ego struggles desperately to reconcile with it. And don't imagine this takes a long time. Just a few days, perhaps a week of true distance, is often enough to make a woman who once demanded space suddenly feel a gripping anxiety about what you're doing without her. We begin to wonder, did he meet someone new? Is he angry with me? Did I genuinely mess up? Is he truly, definitively done? It's crucial to understand that when a woman pulls back or acts disinterested, it's frequently an unconscious test, a subtle way to gauge how much you're willing to fight for her. But if you instead choose to walk away, it profoundly shocks her entire system because deep down, she genuinely expected you to hold on. When you don't, she begins the painful realization of just how much she relied on your consistent presence, your calming voice, your unwavering attention, your sheer reliability. The very things she once easily overlooked now become the precise things she starts craving with an intense longing. When you stop reaching out, that's the potent moment she truly starts to realize the immense value she's losing. And for her, the most difficult part is that she can't simply pick up where things left off, because now you have fundamentally changed. You are no longer chasing, no longer giving your energy so freely, and suddenly she is the one left to wander in uncertainty. That profound shift, that's when the undeniable missing genuinely begins. You know what's truly wild? We don't necessarily miss you for the grand, extravagant gestures. Instead, we miss you profoundly for the countless small things, those seemingly insignificant acts we barely even registered until you completely stopped doing them. It's not primarily about the expensive dinners or the over-the-top surprises. It's about how you consistently texted us good morning without fail, how you keenly noticed when we were utterly exhausted, even when we stubbornly pretended to be fine. It's about how you would sometimes show up, not with a bouquet of flowers, but with our absolute favorite snack, or how you meticulously remembered something we casually mentioned in passing, something no one else ever seemed to catch. We remember how you made us feel, genuinely safe, deeply heard, and unequivocally chosen. But here's the stark reality. At the time, we didn't always adequately value it. We became accustomed to it, comfortable, and perhaps even a little entitled. We simply assumed it was just an intrinsic part of who you were. The reliably nice guy, the one who always cared, always gave, always showed up. And when we were completely caught up in our own fleeting moods, our passing frustrations, or our selfish moments, we probably, unwittingly, made you feel like none of your efforts truly mattered, like your persistent contributions were entirely invisible. But once you're truly gone, those very same things echo in our minds with astonishing clarity and painful loudness. We begin to miss that steady, profoundly calming presence, the quiet way you supported us without ever seeking credit, the unwavering manner in which you forgave us even when we were far from our best selves. And we feel this aching void, not just because you stopped doing these things, but because no one else does them quite like you. We inevitably begin comparing every new man to you. And here's the raw, honest truth most women would never openly admit. When we find ourselves surrounded by men who lack that same emotional depth, who don't pay genuine attention, who don't see us in the deeply understanding way you once did, that's when profound regret truly begins to set in. Because now, we genuinely get it. We realize we didn't just lose someone who merely liked us. We lost someone who actually deeply cared. We lost someone who consistently gave more of himself than he received, someone who was emotionally intelligent, acutely aware, and fully present. And that kind of man, that's an exceptionally rare find. It hits us profoundly when we're lying in bed, aimlessly scrolling through our phones, and something unexpected reminds us of you. It hits when someone else reacts with annoyance instead of your familiar, gentle patience. It hits when we tentatively try to open up to someone new and devastatingly realize it's just not the same, not even close. You taught us a profound kind of love we didn't even recognize we desperately needed until it was irretrievably gone. And by the time we finally comprehend the incredible value of what we had, you're already far beyond our reach. So yes, we miss you. But more than that, we miss the truly invaluable way we felt when we were with you. And if you've ever secretly wondered if she ponders all those seemingly small things you did, trust me, she does, far more than you could possibly imagine. When we finally grasp that we've taken a genuinely good man for granted, we certainly don't immediately admit it. In fact, more often than not, we meticulously try to play it cool. We'll feign being completely unbothered, perhaps post a few social media stories showcasing our best life, and we might even casually start talking to someone new. This isn't because we're genuinely over you, but rather a deliberate attempt to project that image to the world, and perhaps to ourselves. It's a fundamental defense mechanism. We desperately don't want you to know that your absence is consuming our thoughts, that we're endlessly replaying past conversations, obsessively wondering if we pushed too far, if we mistakenly interpreted your love as weakness, and worst of all, fearing that we might have lost you forever. Internally, we are unequivocally spiraling, quietly, secretly, a silent tempest, but we will never outwardly show it. This is an integral part of how women often cope with profound regret. We compartmentalize. We attempt to bury those intense feelings under a flurry of distractions, newfound attention, and fleeting validation, but none of it ever truly works. The irrefutable truth is, when a woman feels a deep emotional connection to a man and then loses it, that connection doesn't simply vanish into thin air. It lingers persistently. It haunts us. We'll inevitably see you moving on, thriving, glowing up, perhaps even accomplishing the very things we once said we wanted for you. But now, you're doing them entirely without us. And that stings profoundly, because now we realize it wasn't that you weren't enough. It was fundamentally that we failed to recognize your immense value in time. Yet even then, we won't rush back. Not immediately. We'll wait. We'll covertly observe if you reach out, hoping against hope you still care, still check in, still wonder about us. And when you definitively don't, that's when the true panic begins to relentlessly set in. We start asking ourselves piercing questions we never dared to contemplate before. Was I too cold? Did I expect an unreasonable amount? Did I inadvertently make him feel entirely unappreciated? Does he absolutely hate me now? And the situation only escalates when your silence becomes absolute, because now we're completely adrift, unsure of our standing. Women detest uncertainty, especially when it stems from a man we foolishly assumed would always unfailingly be there. You see, we often erroneously assume we have limitless time, that you'll perpetually be there, waiting, that we can pull back and you'll reliably chase, that we can test your unwavering patience and you'll undeniably stay. But when you don't, when you genuinely stop showing up, stop calling, stop caring, that's when we begin to completely lose ourselves internally. We might meticulously pretend we're utterly unbothered, but trust me, that silence reverberates far louder than anything you could possibly articulate. It inexorably forces us to confront every single thing we ignored, all the ways we inadvertently mistreated you, all the selfless things you did that we carelessly brushed off. And the longer you steadfastly remain silent, the more deeply we realize that he really might not come back this time. That's when simply missing you gradually morphs into overwhelming regret, and that profound regret then transforms into an undeniable wake-up call. While not every woman reaches this profound level of introspection, the ones who genuinely cared, even if their actions didn't always reflect it when they had you, they feel it with an intense depth when they truly lose you. Let me be absolutely real with you. When we finally begin to miss a man we once casually took for granted, it's not a quiet, gentle yearning. No, there's a full-fledged, brutal internal war raging within us. One part of our being is relentlessly screaming, "You completely messed up. You deliberately pushed away a genuinely good man," while another equally insistent part fiercely counters, "No, stay strong. Do not show weakness. He should have fought with more conviction." This relentless battle between our ego and our raw emotion is excruciatingly brutal. The ego's primary function is to protect us. It cunningly tells us not to admit fault, not to apologize, and certainly not to make the first move, because doing so feels like a debilitating weakness, like an absolute loss of power. Many women, particularly those accustomed to being in control or constantly being pursued, will desperately cling to that perceived power, even when it's actively costing them the very emotional connection they secretly desire. But emotion, my dear, cannot stay buried indefinitely. The truth is, we profoundly feel it. Missing you washes over us in relentless waves. Sometimes late at night when the world is eerily quiet, sometimes when an innocuous sight instantly reminds us of you, and sometimes when we're genuinely laughing with someone new and suddenly, devastatingly, realize it's simply not the same, that they don't make us feel the way you effortlessly did. That's precisely when the emotional core of us begins its powerful, insistent surge to the surface. We start quietly admitting truths to ourselves that our pride was previously too immense to articulate aloud. Thoughts like, "I fully expected him to simply read my mind," or "I desperately wanted him to chase me," failing to realize he was already utterly exhausted from constantly proving himself, or the most painful, "I acted as if I didn't need him." But the crushing truth is, I genuinely did. And as these potent emotions begin to relentlessly accumulate, the rigid ego starts its inevitable, slow retreat. Yet, this is where it becomes incredibly complex. We don't always overtly display that emotional shift immediately. You might not perceive it outwardly, you might mistakenly believe we've effortlessly moved on, but internally, we're fiercely wrestling with what we deeply feel versus what we are absolutely terrified to admit. Sometimes we'll tentatively test the waters, watching your social media stories, perhaps subtly liking an old post, or sending a seemingly casual, "Hey, hope you're good" message that outwardly says little but implicitly screams, "I am still thinking about you." It's not always about immediately expecting a full reconciliation. Often we just desperately want to know that we can still reach you, that the door isn't irreversibly shut, that we didn't completely lose you. But if we genuinely sense that you have truly checked out, that you are emotionally distant, that your energy has fundamentally and permanently shifted, that's when emotion completely shatters the ego's defenses. And what was once just a longing for you transforms into that gut-wrenching, agonizing, pit-in-the-stomach feeling that women rarely dare to discuss openly, regret with absolutely no possibility of return. And believe me, no woman ever wants to endure that. It's excruciatingly painful, deeply humbling, and it makes us desperately wish we could rewind every single word we uttered and every action we took when we foolishly believed we had all the time in the world. You want to know when we really start to miss you? It's typically not immediately after the breakup. And it's not even solely when the silence first settles in. No, it's the profound moment we observe that you haven't stopped living your life, that undeniable realization that you're not just passively sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, patiently waiting for us to come back. That is when it truly hits us, profoundly and irrevocably. I recall a particular guy. Our relationship had been on and off for quite some time, and frankly, I confidently believed I held all the cards. He was kind, incredibly patient, and remarkably emotionally grounded, yet I foolishly perceived those qualities as simply safe rather than genuinely attractive. I was certain he'd always be there. Then, one ordinary day, I scrolled through his Instagram, and it was as if I was seeing a completely different man. He radiated an unmistakable lightness, a profound happiness. He was out attending vibrant events, traveling to exciting new places, diligently hitting the gym, and flashing that genuine smile he hadn't worn when we were together. There was no trace of bitterness in his posts, no passive-aggressive captions, just an undeniable aura of peace. And I, to be honest, hated it. Not because I wished him misery, but because I suddenly, starkly realized I no longer wielded any power over him whatsoever. I had carelessly let a good man go, and now he was brilliantly shining without me. I can't deny it. I completely panicked. I felt an overwhelming urge to reach out. I even typed several messages, only to delete them before sending. I was constantly plagued by the thought, was I genuinely that forgettable? Did I even matter to him at all? Here's the critical insight. When a man pulls away, we might initially roll our eyes in exasperation, but when a man genuinely levels up and flourishes, we unequivocally notice. Women always take keen notice when a man ceases his chase and begins to glow from within. This transformation instigates a deep psychological shift within us that is virtually impossible to ignore. Suddenly, we are no longer the ones doing the evaluating. Instead, we acutely feel as though we are being evaluated, and the most cutting aspect of all, when it becomes absolutely clear that you are making no effort whatsoever to prove anything to us, that's when it wounds the deepest. This is because women possess an innate ability to discern when a man is merely showing off to capture our attention versus when he is authentically in his zone, genuinely moving forward and meticulously rebuilding his life. When we took you for granted, we foolishly assumed you would remain perpetually stuck in the same emotional space. But when we witness that you unequivocally are not, when your entire energetic vibration shifts, when you exude calm and remain completely unbothered, when your silence itself carries a profound substance, it forces us to confront a harrowing truth we had been desperately trying to avoid. We were an integral part of the problem, and once that profound thought truly takes root, it does not quietly depart. We begin to meticulously reflect upon everything valuable you brought to the table, your unwavering consistency, your gentle softness, your undeniable strength, all the crucial things we failed to cherish in the moment. And now, we are left observing an entirely new version of you, a healed, evolved version that we no longer have any access to. It stings intensely. That, my friend, is when the true missing truly begins. But not a light, fleeting kind of missing. It's the gut-wrenching, sick-to-your-stomach kind. The kind that jolts you awake in the dead of night and leaves you wondering how you could possibly have let someone as invaluable as you slip away. Let me tell you something you probably rarely hear from women. Silence from a man who once deeply cared is not just a mere lack of contact. It is, in the best possible way, psychological warfare. Because here's what truly unfolds behind the scenes. When we take a man for granted, it's almost always because we operate under the subconscious assumption that he will perpetually be around. Whether you are soft-spoken, incredibly forgiving, or simply consistently emotionally available, many women unfortunately interpret that as safe, which, tragically, can be mistakenly conflated with expendable. However, when that exact same man falls silent, when you cease checking in, stop reacting to our tests, and definitively stop trying, it doesn't just create a void of absence, it generates an immense palpable tension. It creates an undeniable space for profound, uncomfortable self-reflection, and that for us is incredibly perilous. Because in that silence, we are faced with an inescapable mirror, a mirror we simply cannot turn away from. Without your voice resonating in our lives, we are compelled to exclusively hear our own thoughts. And that's precisely when the genuinely unsettling questions begin to relentlessly creep in. Did I irrevocably mess this up? Why hasn't he called me? Was he truly that invested in me? Wait, is he completely over me already? And trust me, those thoughts spiral with alarming speed, because once we perceive that you are no longer emotionally attached, it doesn't register as peace to us. It feels like a stark, undeniable rejection. Even if we were the ones who initially pushed you away, even if we walked first, your silence quickly begins to feel like a punishing consequence, despite the fact that you are merely minding your own business. Here's a crucial insight most men unfortunately don't grasp. When a woman acknowledges she took a man for granted, and he then doesn't reach out, she doesn't feel empowered. She feels utterly replaced. And that intense fear steadily, quietly grows stronger with each passing day. We begin meticulously watching to see if you've moved on, covertly checking if you've fundamentally changed, subtly asking around, tirelessly searching for your name online. And if we find absolutely nothing, it drives us to the brink of insanity because we intuitively understand what that truly signifies. You're genuinely gone. Not temporarily, not simply waiting, you are profoundly, unequivocally gone. And deep within her, every woman who has ever taken a man for granted harbors one terrifying fear above all others, that you will finally, authentically realize your inherent worth without needing her validation whatsoever. So, if you currently find yourself in that silent phase, anxiously wondering if she's thinking about you, the answer is most likely a resounding yes. But more profoundly, it's not just that she's merely thinking, it's that she's intensely feeling. She is trapped in a space she's entirely unaccustomed to, one where she holds no control, where her feminine influence no longer sways you in the slightest. And when a woman experiences that profound level of emotional disconnection from a man she once casually dismissed, that is precisely when raw, biting regret forcefully makes its appearance, not loudly and dramatically, but quietly and with an excruciating depth. So, do not be tempted to break the silence simply because it feels uncomfortable. You truly have no comprehension of how immensely powerful it actually is, or how much crystal clear clarity it is tirelessly creating within her. Let me be brutally blunt here, because sometimes, as men, you profoundly need to hear this truth from a woman who actually respects you. If you persistently allow a woman to treat you as a mere afterthought, if you constantly continue to show up for her when she is unmistakably not showing up for you, if you incessantly prove your unwavering loyalty to someone who clearly doesn't value it, then you are, in essence, actively teaching her that you are easily replaceable. And I guarantee you, once a woman truly believes that deep in her core, she will invariably begin to act as if it's an undeniable truth. Now, I am by no means suggesting that women are inherently cruel or heartless. Rather, we are profoundly emotional, incredibly intuitive. And when it comes to the intricate dance of dating, we are extraordinarily reactive to how a man consistently presents himself. If you are always effortlessly available, perpetually agreeable, consistently forgiving, even when we explicitly cross established boundaries, we cease to genuinely feel your intrinsic value. Instead, we tragically begin to perceive your palpable desperation. And that unequivocally is a truly unattractive energy, because here lies the uncomfortable truth. Women simply do not inherently respect what we can easily control. If we know with absolute certainty that you will unfailingly be there no matter how we behave, we lose that crucial impetus to be our absolute best selves around you. You become easy, predictable, emotionally cheap. We don't consciously intend to take you for granted, but we inevitably do. And by the time you consciously realize it, it's already a deeply ingrained dynamic, one you have tacitly, silently allowed to flourish. But here's the genuinely empowering news. You possess the innate power to fundamentally change this dynamic, and not by resorting to chasing, nor by demanding respect through arguments. You change it profoundly by decisively withdrawing your invaluable energy from situations where it is not being wholeheartedly reciprocated. You fundamentally shift the power balance by holding yourself to an unequivocally higher standard, not as a manipulative tactic, but as a deeply embedded lifestyle. You unequivocally show us, through your decisive actions, that you intrinsically know who you are, and that you are utterly unafraid to lose someone who demonstrably fails to recognize your immense worth. And trust me, that profound change, we feel it to our core. We unequivocally notice when the entire energetic dynamic shifts, when you cease the relentless chase, when you begin to move through the world like a man who genuinely knows he brings immense value to the table and is not, under any circumstances, begging anyone to sit with him. So, if you currently find yourself in a situation where you generously gave too much and consequently she began treating you like a mere option, it's time to cease blaming her entirely and initiate a profound self-check. What deeply rooted part of you kept naively hoping that your love alone would be sufficient to make her appreciate you? That, my friend, is the critical part that desperately needs healing, because the exact moment you truly internalize that you, and only you, possess the unwavering power to set the definitive tone for how you are treated, everything irrevocably changes. A woman simply cannot take a man for granted who steadfastly refuses to give her the convenient opportunity to do so. Let that profound truth truly sink in. Here's the unvarnished truth most women will never voice aloud. We don't miss you merely because you were kind. We don't miss you simply because you consistently did everything right. We miss you profoundly when you ignite within us a feeling we absolutely cannot replace. This isn't always about your physical appearance, your social status, or even being the stereotypical perfect guy. It's fundamentally about how you steadfastly hold yourself, the profound emotional imprint you leave behind when you finally choose to walk away, not in explosive anger, not in desperate pleading, but with an unwavering sense of peace. That quiet, confident detachment hits differently in a way nothing else can. When a man definitively stops trying to prove his inherent worth and simply lives as if he already unequivocally knows it, that's when we truly begin to remember him, often with painful clarity. And if we, in our misguided moments, took you for granted, that monumental shift doesn't just sting, it haunts us relentlessly. Because now, we devastatingly realize we can't reclaim that former version of you. Not unless we are willing to rise and truly meet you at your new level. Not unless we genuinely become worthy of the man you have now become. So, if you have been hurt by a woman who failed to recognize your immense value, do not chase closure. Do not chase her. Instead, become the unwavering man who doesn't need to be seen by others because he already profoundly sees himself. And believe me, that truly is the man we ultimately miss. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced being taken for granted by a woman you poured your heart and soul into? Did she eventually come back, or did you make the difficult but definitive choice to walk away for good? Drop your story and your insights in the comments section below. I'll be actively reading and replying because these deep conversations truly matter, and I profoundly respect every man who is courageous enough to grow from confronting the unvarnished truth.